Hi everyone, thank you very much for your time today. So I'm Mark and I represent Resync. The reason why I joined Resync is because I truly believe in the technology behind and is a sustainability-driven company, right? And it's very important that the technology and the innovation behind what they do is going places to solve climate change. So as we know, there are a couple of trends that are driving decarbonization, and the theme today is decarbonization and digitalization. But let's take a step back, and there's deregulation involved because legislation plays a part. We all know that there's a UN COP26 decarbonization targets, where by the mid-century it's required that we help to reduce the temperature by 1.5 degrees. So in order to do that, the status quo is not enough. So we need governments, companies like Resync in the innovation side, and as well as the research sector to come together and cooperate in order to find means and ways to solve this. So that's where companies like Resync comes into the equation, because we innovate together with the power utility companies to change the traditional ways of doing things, to reform the current grid architecture, to put in some kind of intelligent control over it so that there's optimization and gains for the entire ecosystem, right? So behind that, there's decentralization. So there's technologies right now like smart cities and campuses that bring together the technology to do distributed energy resource management. So what this means is that right now the traditional grid could be bidirectional, but it's a grid that supplies towards households and buildings, the built environment. But that is gradually changing by decentralization because of technology, the algorithms in place that's able to help cities, for example, to decide how much energy to be produced by their solar based on their storage constraints, as well as because of performance forecasting on your both your solar as well as your consumption side. You're able to make some decisions as to how much you can generate in order to not be penalized in some countries when you have to backfeed into the grid, or be able to sell into the grid in some countries, as well as to do P2P, right? And the next thing is decarbonization. So basically, when you have this kind of UN and the whole drive, more people want to be sustainable, more people understand the importance to fight climate change in order for the next generations and that to come. So in order to solve this 1.5 degrees Celsius, you find the pressure coming from governments as well. That's trickling down from United Nations, for example. And Singapore is a leader in terms of doing initiatives that will help deter companies from emitting too much unnecessary carbon, as well as incentivizing them. For example, there's a green mark by BCA certification for an incentive scheme, right? So that pressure, and also coupled by the upstream customers, because we all know branding and reputation is important for sales, right? So when we talk about decarbonization, we talk about scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So in terms of decarbonization, which I'll share about, what we do at Resync, we mainly cover scope 2 for companies, that means their whole portfolio, as well as to cover their scope 3, which is their upstream distributors and their downstream vendors, because their scope 2 built environment emissions would also affect your company's scope 3, for example. And scope 1 is also something that I don't want to neglect, because by using predictive maintenance, you're able to tell whether there's any fugitive emissions going on, like your refrigeration systems, that certain liquid freon, for example, might be leaking and is contributing towards global warming, right? So at Resync, what we do is that we use the power of digitalization, because we have been around for 5 years. We're Singapore-based, but we have expanded into 9 markets. And we have the technology readiness because we build it in-house, it's proprietary, but yet we cooperate and work with a lot of stakeholders, the governments, the research institutions, as well as establishments and conglomerates like Infineon, for example, on certain test bits and applications to make sure that the solutions are ready for the market, right? So beyond the digitalization, it's just simply IoT devices are now widespread. So you have the meters, you have the sensors for air quality and occupancies. You bring it all together into a dashboard that is easy to use for companies, the owners, the facility teams, engineers. So that promotes some productivity gains. At the end of the day, also helps you to straight through report your carbon footprint, right? Whether it's ESG reporting, if you're intentional, it helps you to measure it. and show progress, real progress towards achieving these targets, right? And it also helps in parallel to, because auditing and ESCO companies are coming in and doing their checks. But when you have a straight-through way of reporting your energy consumption and being able to customize it by, for example, your portfolio of buildings, your floors, your units, your special assets, like even for banks, ATMs, right? Being able to report it so management will know what to do and to pinpoint the pain areas to resolve, to fight, to make progressive action towards decarbonization as a company is very important. So behind all this, data is a key behind the transformation, and whichever company or vendor that can help an organization to make better sense of that energy data and provide the behavioral insights as well as the optimization, apart from the analytics like the predictive maintenance and the performance analytics, is going to stand at a higher chance at, firstly, by reducing consumption, saving on money, and number two is because of the productivity gains from automation, less manual work, improving the competency of your facility team, for example, because predictive maintenance starts with anomaly detection, but it then be smart enough to understand the root cause of the problem. So when you change your team or you hire someone junior, he can do a very efficient job, and also reduces the number of maintenance because you are doing maintenance, for example, one time as opposed to 3 times, right? And finally, you achieve your sustainability goals, or you're showing real progress towards achieving them, right, as a company. So, all right, so why Resync, right? So we've been around for 5 years. We are tech-driven. 80% of our team are data scientists, IoT engineers, as well as back-end, front-end. We have built a very strong, reliable infrastructure that's able to take the information, store it, process it, in terms of the AI for the analytics, as well as certain optimization, which I'll touch upon later, right? So it's reliable. We work on government tenders, and we fully abide to all of the encryption standards, security standards that are required. And we are affordable and customizable comes together because we are modular. So based on what you need, we kind of provide a solution that's just for you, right? And we're scalable, so we can start with one site, one country, and we can scale across to follow your footprint, right? Fully cloud-based, as mentioned. So how does it work? So here are some of the stakeholders that we work with, like IT assets companies. You know, I just came back from Dubai, and they have a lot of IT assets, and they come to us and they say, we have the assets, but our customers want more. They want end-to-end. We like your solution. And that's where the difference between a hardware company and an intelligent layer company is, right? So we take in that information, and also we started off doing microgrids, right, renewables, and now we are focusing on smart buildings. We take that information, and we are able to communicate to the BMS, for example, or whatever existing meters, because we have the IT engineers that have mastered the art of communicating, whether it's BACnet, OPC, UA, and we are now exploring LawnWorks, for example. So if device to device is not possible because they already have gathered the data on an application, we can do API integration as well, right? And the next part is the sexy part. So that's where Resync is, right? This is the part where we take your data and firstly make it very useful for you for your reporting needs. Secondly, we take that data and then we provide predictive maintenance as well as forecasting, for example. But the secret sauce between ours for our solution for home is that we are able to disaggregate household appliance, 80% of all the high consuming appliances, which is 100 kilowatt and above. We are able to do that all just by just at the DB point, which is a distribution box, by putting one single meter there, right? So we won a tender in Singapore with NEA, and we are currently rolling out for 600 households. That's one of the secret sauce. The other one for buildings is the HVAC optimization. So yes, there are companies that can do it, but when you can actually incorporate the thermal comfort based on certain parameters like taking the weather forecast, the occupancy, the IAQ such as humidity, CO2, and total volatile organic compounds consideration. It's not just that, it's just closing the loop to optimize your chiller-based AHU systems or your VRV-based FCU systems. And it's got to be tried and tested because anyone can say they can do it, but you really need the brains behind. So we have research scholars specialized in optimization, and our co-founder, CTO, has written papers in power algorithms. So that's why we are a step ahead in terms of that, in terms of the technology readiness for optimization. And number 3, I think we are stepping into the new space called distributed energy resource management, and we are working on a couple of tenders. We can't mention that right now. But basically, again, it's an algorithm that manages the how much to generate, how much to consume, how much to store, the load balancing for the power factoring as well, right? So we do a lot of things, even predictive maintenance for solar as well as buildings. Again, people can say they can do predictive maintenance to detect anomalies, but it takes time and feedback from the FM teams in order to get to the root cause analysis. So when we have more data sets, we are able to understand the signature of the assets and feedback into the system so that the FM teams, for example, will know exactly what the root cause is, right? So it's something that gets better over time, and that's the power of AI, right? So again, all of this information, unlike a BMS that is situated at the basement of a building, is provided very handy to you in an intuitive fashion from web-based portals to mobile apps. So Resync is basically, we have worked with a lot of BMS systems. We are able to, I think BACnet is a communication that we can read and write. Reading is not a problem for most BMS. You can take the data out, you can show the data. But if we need to work through the BMS for optimization, then I think these are a couple of players that we currently work with, right? Some of them are, most of them are tier 1, right? So I'd like to walk you the story. I know this is a dashboard that shows a lot of things. But the first step is to first take your data, right? From a building, for example, has the main incoming and then a riser and the sub-DBs and everything. You can go as granular as you want. We can also do some disaggregation in the office. We take that data and represent it on a very intuitive fashion where you can look at it on an overview level by building, by portfolio, by floor, by unit, and special assets, right? And you can do forecasting as well as your reporting based on the actual data, your energy data. So when this data is flowing, because the energy provides the signature of whatever's going on that we are monitoring, we then decided to embed an integrated facility management system whereby organizations can put in the engineers, the FM teams, and whoever is overseeing it, so that they can firstly assign roles based on certain maintenance tasks, and then create user-generated tasks, of course, so that those are scheduled maintenance. But more importantly, it can auto-generate maintenance tasks based on actual degradation or issues. Because we know when there's an issue, normally there's a spike in the consumption or the useful life of the useful life of the asset is going to be impacted. So you want to solve it. And by doing this feature, it also improves the productivity level of the maintenance team, right? And finally, what happens here is that since we are doing it for building, we get the building's data, we add in certain sensors, we throw in our algorithms, and we optimize the HVAC system. Because we know HVAC system contributes to about 60% of the energy consumed in the building. And if we can just do airside optimization by gradually controlling the FCUs or AHU, which then affects the chiller part, the water side, you can save 15 to up to 35%, right, of your energy, of that 60%. So it's a lot of savings, right? Yeah. And we also can do invoicing. So by combining, for example, the condenser as well as the sub-DV for an office. So instead of charging by square footage, which can be unfair because they're like, why am I being charged more when my neighbors are using more, right? So we help some of our clients to charge accurately as well. So I won't dwell on this, but this is a slide where we show our power of our company. We're able to disaggregate your household appliances, right, just using 1 meter. What does this mean? So in your house, you have like, for example, your fridge, your water heater, your air conditioning, right? So now with the bills going up, you do not know what you do not know. You're like, okay, my bills are going up, but how do I improve my behavior? So with this app, right now it tells you, like, your refrigerator this month is consuming more than last month. Maybe it's something wrong. You want to get it checked because it shouldn't be the case. Or it tells you you're using your washing machine at this time when maybe you should be using it at other time to avoid the peak pricing. Or telling you in general that your household is consuming more than other similar households. So these kind of things and provided to the customers in the form of like kilowatt, that means it's a consumption, to the cost, which is the dollar value, and carbon footprint, which is the number of trees you will save. I think we cover all kinds of market groups and types of people in order to try to reduce consumption, improve consumption habits by encouraging behavioral change. Yeah. So here's a snapshot. We started with renewables. We are at 250 megawatt peak right now. I think we go for larger projects for renewables right now. We have a total of about 20 plus companies, 650 million data point sets for our analytics. And we also have employed more than 1,700, I think it's now 2,500 IoT assets, and more than 150 buildings right now, because in Thailand alone, we are doing it for about 120. So in general, we see productivity gains from automation, digitalization, it's about 15 to 25%, right? And energy savings, when there's HVAC optimization involved, can go from 15 to 20%. And we are present right now in 9 countries because we just expanded into UAE. Yep. So what's our model, right? I mean, we charge firstly a CapEx for the hardware installation and integration, configuration. We try to do it as much as possible at cost. What we look at is the annual subscription that should be sticky, because when there's an algorithm at place to optimize your HVAC system, or your predictive maintenance is telling your team what to do, you don't want to take that away, right? So, but we also don't charge at that value because we are sustainability driven. We want you to enjoy the benefits. There are other models like the pay as you save model, but that one gets really complicated when the savings are more and you start earning more than you should, right, for your solution. It should be the company's, it should be your client's benefit, really. So here are some of the partners we work with. Just to mention, we work with big consultant companies for the energy portfolio. Through that also, we kind of get some of the big players involved. And first, we started with test bidding, and now we roll out across the buildings. We also have some projects here where we do smart campuses, where we cover 120 buildings. We kind of work in a way whereby we consolidate not just the consumption and reduce the consumption, but we also integrate the solar side of it, and we also do predictive maintenance on the solar so that they will know when there's shading or soiling, for example, right, going on. So we are very much that layer of intelligence, but we cover end-to-end because we know our customers might not have the hardware necessary. So that's the kind of company we are, right? We will do end-to-end for you. We will just charge you at cost, but we will charge a subscription that is commensurate to what we feel is fair for what we provide. Yep, so that's our presence over here. We work with, for buildings, real estate owners. We work with large FM companies. We work with consultancies. We are also now looking at private equity where they have a portfolio and they need to help them to go greener for their own reporting and stock price reasons, right? So yeah, that's the gist of what we do. And this is our team. We are a very tech team. We are venture funded. We started at we started at Entrepreneur First. We are backed by SG Innovate. We are partners of Energy Market Authority, as well as Enterprise Singapore helped us to go, for example, to Dubai because we were trying to invest in other markets, our nascent technology. Yep, with that, I'll wrap it up and thank you very much for your time.